beautiful breakfast. Check it. Look at how empty that plate looks with no kiwi. That's just sad. Got a banana instead. What's going on, everyone? It is Sunday, May the 12th. We got Rashawn back behind the camera. My boy's back. He got in Florida.
Back, baby. Time to make some content.
Look at how lean his face looks. That's crazy. Rashawn got in last night, and he's 10 weeks out from the Muscle Mayhem, which is the show I did, then Pat did. Now Rashawn is doing it. So the whole crew has just been dominating the Muscle Mayhem. He's been vlogging and documenting his whole journey to the stage on his channel. I'll have that linked down below. Anyway, before it gets cold here, I'm gonna show you guys what I got for breakfast. So this is 6 egg whites with a little bit of low-fat cheese on top. We've got 1 slice of turkey bacon. These are just hash browns, nothing too special there. And then I've got half a cup of oats. I like to eat my oats just cold in water with a little bit of Splenda, and a banana. And then we also got 2 fish oils, PE Science fish oils, and the PE Science True Multi. That's just to round out the nutrition side. If you guys weren't aware, my goal right now is body recomposition. So basically, I'm gonna try to very slowly gain maybe 2 or 3 pounds. In that process, also try to lose fat, so tighten up as I gain size. And I'm really trying to optimize absolutely everything on my new upper lower program. So when it comes to nutrition and training, the key theme in these upcoming vlogs is gonna be optimization, tracking my macros more. I won't do it every single day, but I'm doing it at least every other day. Around 2,800 to 3,000 calories per day, which is a very slight surplus for me. So I will be gaining, but it's gonna be slow and it's gonna be lean. I've actually been talking quite a bit to my buddy, Chris Barakat, who's a researcher at the University of Tampa. And we've basically just been like picking each other's brains about how to optimize everything in regards to body recomposition. And one thing that we both kind of agreed upon is that we think it is more optimal to distribute your protein a little bit more evenly. So basically I've been waking up, having a protein shake, then I'll have this pre-workout meal, then I'll have at least another 3 solid hits of protein before I go to bed. And I think that intermittent fasting certainly can work, but it may not be the most optimal way to distribute your protein. Pre-workout meal, I've been kind of optimizing my carb sources. So I've got a bit of fruit here, which Chris actually recommended that I do because it has a combination of glucose and fructose, and those 2 carb sources use different transporter systems. So they're gonna be absorbed at slightly different rates. So you can, I guess in theory, have a more sustained source of energy throughout the workout. And also I've switched to a low glycemic carb source. I used to have more hash browns, but could totally have been in my head, but I found that my energy used to kind of taper off throughout the workout. And sometimes I'd actually get kind of lightheaded. So I think that a lower glycemic or a higher glycemic carb source may have been part of the reason for that. Anyway, since I've switched to a lower glycemic carb source pre-workout, I haven't found that to be an issue. So I think that covers everything I wanted to talk about there. I'm gonna dig in, eat this meal, and then we're gonna head over to the gym. Love it. Shout out to Florida Extreme. There's something about this environment just makes me want to trust it. I've still got a lot of power lifter left in here. Can't wait to start lifting some crazy weights. All right, guys. So here's the plan. Look at this, man. I'm starting to fill this thing up. I'll probably eventually do an app or something like that, but I'm so old school, man. All right, so we've got squats, walking lunges, seated leg curls. I'm gonna do a leg extension hip thrust instead of rope pull throughs today. Hip abductions, weighted crunches, and we're gonna finish with some neck. So pretty crazy workout. Some people have been saying the workouts in the programs, they are a bit long, but that's probably because you're not sticking to the rest periods. I've been timing myself and I can get in and out in between an hour, hour and a half. So if you actually stick to the rest periods, you should be able to get through it kind of quickly. They are high volume workouts. They are really challenging, but you shouldn't be in the gym for any more than an hour and a half to 2 hours for sure. Full warm up here. So we're gonna start with some leg lifts each side. Then we're gonna do them on the side. It's kind of crazy because I'm used to only hitting legs twice a week, only twice a week. Now that I've been doing it 3 times a week, it's so important to get a full warm up in. And I foam roll before every single training session because usually I will be a little bit stiff, not necessarily sore, but I can just feel like my muscles need that little bit of extra warm up than they would normally. So you really want to be thorough with it when you increase the frequency. Pro tip, always get your knee sleeves on before you start and just leave them down at your ankles. Otherwise, you gotta take your sneakers off again and you'll be sweaty, so it's harder to actually get them on. Today I'm gonna be warming up to 3 sets of 8 working sets, 295 pounds. So I'll probably do 3 pyramid sets, working my way up, and then get into the working stuff. Bro, not too bad. Depth feels good. Everything about that feels so good right now. Just feel like the increase in frequency has really allowed me to dial the technique in. So good. Can't wait to test my maxes at the end of this block. That's something I'm going to talk about in a minute, where I think my 1 rep maxes are on the big 3 right now. Check out the fancy tripod setup, bro. You get to 1 million subscribers, this is the kind of stuff you can afford. Cardio, bro. These squats are feeling great. Oh, shoot. Catch my breath. So I was gonna talk to you guys about where my current maxes are and what my goals are. We'll start with the squat because that's what I just did. That 295 for 3 sets of 8 felt honestly pretty freaking easy. It's the best my squat has felt in a long time. I'm currently plugging in my 1 rep max on the high bar squat as 415 pounds, and I feel like that's probably about right for my 1 rep max, even though I haven't tested it in forever. And if I go low bar, I'm usually about 10% stronger with that, and I'm guessing I probably got about 450 as a max with the low bar. My all-time squat PR, which I'll put up here on the screen, is 501 pounds, which I did 5 years ago at Canadian Nationals, just before I kind of messed my back up a bit. So I haven't fully recovered and been able to get back to that level, and it's not necessarily a goal of mine, but if it happens as a side effect, then I'll be super happy. But I'd love to hit that 450 low bar squat, maybe by the end of this training cycle or maybe the next one. As for bench, the most recent bench set I did was 3 sets of 8 with 70% of my 1 rep max. So what was that? 3 sets of 8 with 245. And that was feeling really easy. I think that I've got about a 350 pound bench in me if I really went for it. My all-time record for a paused rep is 365. I've done 405 for a touch and go, but I don't really count that because I think my butt popped up at the time. So when are we going to Toronto? Like 3 weeks?
June 2nd.
Like June 2nd. I'm gonna do a training collab, so you guys can wait for this. I'm gonna do a training collab with Alpha Destiny, and we've been talking about it. And I think we're gonna go for a bench off. So if I can bust out like 340, 350, then I'll be super stoked. And then as for my deadlift, so this I actually did test at the end of my last training block. So after I finished my push-pull legs program, I put 405 pounds on the bar and figured out what I could do in terms of max reps with that. And I got 6 reps, but if you look at the footage, and I'll have it up here, you can see that I probably could have gotten at least 2 more. So if I plug that into a 1 rep max calculator, I get 503 pounds. And I would say that's about right. I'd say my deadlift 1 rep max is probably somewhere between 475 and 500 pounds. I'd love to get those up. And my all-time 1 rep max on the deadlift was 545 pounds. And I'll roll that here. That was back in 2014 again. Hoping over the next couple of training cycles, I'll get those numbers up. You guys can stay tuned. Strength is number 2 priority for me right now, just there behind physique goals. So I'm gonna talk a little bit more about training maxes after I get into a set of walking lunges. We got 3 sets of 15 reps each leg, so that's 30 total strides. So I don't know if I'll be able to get all the way to the end of this turf here, but I'm just gonna keep going. 35-pound dumbbells, 30 reps, let's get it. I thought that was gonna be harder. I had to jack the weight up a bit. My cardio's getting better, bro. What? How? I don't know. I guess it's just week to week. It's a good question. My heart rate is like chill right now, believe it or not. That's crazy. I wanted to talk a little bit more about testing maxes, how frequently you should do that in the first place, because it's not something I've done in a while. And I think that a lot of trainees, especially newbies, test their 1 rep maxes way too frequently. First of all, I would say that unless you have intentions to compete in a powerlifting event, or if you have very specific strength goals, there's really no need to ever test your 1 rep maxes at all. I mean, you could do it maybe once a year just for like motivational purposes or to see where you are. But if your primary goal is to build muscle, testing your 1 rep max frequently isn't gonna do much toward that goal. Just think about the amount of volume you get out of a 1 rep max attempt. And also, it's gonna set you up with a pretty big injury risk without much potential gain. So I'm not a big fan of testing maxes if your primary goal is to build muscle. What I would instead recommend is doing periodic AMRAP tests, where AMRAP just stands for as many reps as possible. And what you do there is you generally pick something around 90% of your estimated 1 rep max. So something you think you could do for say 3 reps, load it up on the bar, and then do it for as many reps as you can. You obviously want to have a spotter handy for that. But the reason why I like that better than doing a true 1 rep max test is that 1, it's more specific to hypertrophy focused training because you can accumulate a little bit more volume. Also, I think it allows you to push yourself in a similar way to what you do in more of like a hypertrophy rep zone set. So you might realize if you put, let's say, I don't know, 315 pounds on the bench press, which you could normally do for 3 reps, and you take it for as many reps as you can do, you might find that when you actually really push yourself, you're stronger than you think you are. Then once you've figured out how many reps you can get with a given weight, you plug that into a 1 rep max calculator. I like to use the EXRX 1RM calculator, so I'll put a link to that in the description box below. Basically, you just plug in the weight you get, the number of reps you got, and it'll spit you out a 1 rep max result. Now, it's usually only accurate if you're training with relatively low reps. So if you're something below like 5 or 6 reps, it'll be pretty accurate. But if you say end up getting like 10 or 12 reps, those calculators become much less accurate. So you need to be careful with that. If you took 405 for a spin on the deadlift and did 12 reps with it, it's not gonna tell you very much about what your 1 rep max is. So the reps do need to stay at the highest in that like 5 to 6 rep zone. And that's what I prefer to do instead of true 1 rep max tests, which I would only recommend doing very, very sparingly. Now, if you're a power lifter and you have very specific strength goals, I'd recommend testing your 1 rep maxes probably at the end of most training cycles. So say maybe once every 3 months or so. So as someone primarily interested in building muscle, I don't think you really need to do that. I think it's mostly an ego thing that people do just to be able to see how much weight they can get up. and it sets yourself up for injury. And if you are a powerlifter, I should say, at the forefront, you want to think of a 1 rep max attempt as the maximum amount of weight you can definitely do with proper technique, not something that you can just throw on and get up with the help of a spotter. That's not a smart 1 rep max test at all. So anyway, at the end of this training block, my plan is to do some combination of either an AMRAP test or a true 1 rep max test just to see where I'm at, and you guys can stay tuned for that. I always get people asking me where I get these hats, so I'll have it linked down below. Nobody knows who owns it. I don't know who owns it. They're dope hats, so yeah, if you want to check them out. Up next, we're doing 3 sets of 15 on the seated leg curl, and I'm gonna do 3 sets of 15 on this leg extension hip thrust as a superset. Let's go. Up next, we got 3 sets of 15 on the machine hip abduction. We're gonna superset it with 3 sets of 15 on the weighted cable crunch. Let's get it. All right, guys, we're back at home, having a post-workout shake. We've actually been back for a while. We went to Chipotle after the gym, but we're about to watch the Raptors game. So this is game 7. By the time you guys are watching this, you'll probably know what happened if you care. But I've been following the Raptors so closely this playoffs, and I'm really rooting for them. So it is down to the wire now for them, hoping that they win this game. Oh yeah, I forgot to say, at the end of the workout, I kind of cut off the commentary there. We actually finished with some direct neck training. So I did 3 sets of neck curls with the 45-pound plate, 15 reps on those, and then I did the neck flex head extension, 3 sets of 15 to 20 on those, and that was a wrap for the workout. Let's go Raptors. Putting the macros in over here. Chicken burrito bowl.
It's the simplest formula in sports. Win or go home. Raptors, Sixers, game 7. Now.
Let's go! I really want them to win this because I do want to see how they do against Milwaukee. Check it out. So it's halftime. Raptors are up by 4. Got some sushi. Got some edamame, good source of protein over here. We got a couple spicy tuna rolls, California roll, some salmon nigiri, and some miso soup. We're gonna dig in and eat this.
Looks at the clock, turns the corner for the win!
What just happened?
No way!
I have never seen a bounce like that in my life.
What? That was the craziest thing I've ever seen, and I don't even watch basketball.
God.
That was insane. He's behind the backboard, bro. That's the most intense ending to a game I've seen in a long time that I can remember. That was crazy. Steph, we're gonna have to move to Toronto.
Only if they keep quiet.